I have a theory on this. There's all these like schools of thought that say, launch early, launch often, speed to
Yeah,
market, which all that stuff is true. Like you have to be fast. You can't be slow. If you're slow, then you're never going to go anywhere. So you still have to be action oriented. But I think
yeah.
a lot of these like, these theories of like you should be embarrassed of your first MVP.
Cash flow? Cash flow? Did you clear your cash flow?
All right, I just had this guy Nick on my pod. Totally blew me away. The entire episode, I was on the edge of my seat. Like, what's this guy gonna say next? He built multiple companies. He sold his last company to Toptal for a mid-8-figure valuation. And it's really, he's a Peter Thiel Fellow. He breaks down the 8 things that he thinks are really important to tech startup founders, and we go through most of the episode is going through the 8 things that he thinks are really important. There's a few in there that might surprise you, especially number 8. It actually contradicts common advice for startup founders, but we got into some really good dialogue about, why we think differently than what, the common advice people normally say is. But yeah, listen, this episode's crazy, so you gotta hear it. All right, so I've got Nick on the pod today. Nick, I don't even know how to introduce you. You've got like, you just blew my mind with your story. So just like a couple of quick points. I'm just gonna rattle off some of the things you said to me, and we can just like, I don't even know where we're gonna start here. But you were born in Russia. You're mining crypto at age 14. You were buying all these GPUs, and you created a marketplace that was connecting traders together. You're like in high school at the time. Later, you joined 500 Startups. You built another company, We Love No Code, which was a marketplace for talent, similar to like Upwork or Toptal. You sold that company to Toptal. I think you said you got to like a $52 million peak valuation in your early 20s. Sold that company. You've exited that. You're now like doing stuff with Metaverse, VR, AR. Just launched another company with Smart Glass, Smart Glass AI assistant. You're a Peter Thiel Fellow. I don't even know where to go from there. But thanks for coming on the show today, man.
Man, thank you a lot for inviting. It's an honor to be here, and I'm honestly very excited. Yeah, you're pretty much right. It's kind of like all my life in just a few words. I'm, excited where I am right now. Very excited to hopefully where I will be in the future. With opportunities like on AR, VR markets and so on. I think that there are some huge changes and shifts that will happen in our daily routine very, very soon. So we're excited to talk about that maybe sometime later during the pod.
Nice, man. Nice. Let's start with like mining crypto in Russia at age 14. Like your kids are probably out like, playing soccer or your friends are probably out playing soccer and, like running around and just, normal kid stuff. And you're like in your parents' basement, like putting together GPUs and like racking servers. Is that pretty much like how it was?
Yeah, it's honestly pretty much like it was. Honestly, I think I should say thank you to the fact that I didn't really have a lot of friends in my childhood, which actually led me to, just like grind and like do stuff. I spent most of my childhood in front of computer, which was actually my friend, my best friend. In like when I had time, I either played games or I traded crypto just because it was kind of very interesting to me. Where I was born, we have kind of like a bad financial system, I would say, not very well set up, and where the banks can, just like easily block your transactions just because they want to, or by the government and so on. So this is why it was like super, super interesting. And yeah, I came from school. Sometimes instead of school, I just came home and I just like put all those rigs with like 8 GPUs each. And one by one, I built them. And then eventually I just sold them to my teacher, actually, for $20,000. It was a very well ride.
I don't even know what teacher salaries are like in Russia, but I don't know any teachers in the US that'd be able to afford a $20,000 pack of GPUs.
That was like a teacher. He was actually from the university, and our school just basically asked him to come to our school, like to teach just like a couple days, basically. And we quickly became friends because he was also kind of entrepreneurial as well as me. And as soon as I told him like what I'm doing, he was like, "Oh wow, this is great! Like Nick, I'm very interested." And he just bought it for himself and also for his son that was super interested in crypto. And eventually, they just like started to, to continue, they continued building those rigs. So yeah.
Nice, man. So so you had like a full, like, you had eight GPUs. What do you mine? Is it Bitcoin you were mining, or what were you mining?
I think I mine mostly Ethereum because this is what you usually mine on GPUs. And I also mined the first Ethereum Classics. I'm not even sure if it's still a thing. But I remember like literally, the first day when Ethereum Classic came out, and I was like, mining like the first of them. So it was very crazy. Like
Nice,
all those, wild experiences.
How many Ethereum did you mine? Do you know exactly how many?
Oh, that's a great question. I honestly don't really remember. I think, not to lie, I think maybe more than 20, 40 total Ethereums. They're now worth like what, like $2,000, right? Back then they were worth much, much, much less, obviously. So I mined them, I sold them, I bought more GPUs. I was left with a little bit of Ethereums, and then everything started to grow. So honestly, I was just lucky, basically, to the fact where I am right now.
So you didn't hodl on that stuff?
A little bit, maybe like 20% of everything. I was more interested in like scaling it, like just buying more and more and more and more, and running as many GPUs, so that like my whole room will be filled. When my parents walked into the room, like they couldn't just like step anywhere, basically, because it was all filled with video cards and GPUs. So that was the goal.
What did your parents do for a living, or what do they do for a living?
My parents are pretty like normal other people in where I come from. They earn around like $200 per month, which is kind of like like normal in Russia. For the US, obviously, it will sound like very fun, and it just doesn't make sense that people can survive on that, but people actually can. So my mom, she owns like a very small shop selling tea, like Chinese tea and so on. And my father, he's an engineer. He works on like big ships, and like just like building not computers, but yeah, like just doing mechanical work for them, basically. So
Oh, that's cool. What did your parents think when you're like mining Ethereum in your bedroom?
Honestly, my parents were very supportive, and I really, really appreciate them for all that. My mom, she's kind of entrepreneur by herself. She was pretty supportive until it was like 10 p.m. because after 10 p.m. she told me to go to sleep every day, unfortunately. So I couldn't stay very late. And my father, he just like literally helped me, like advised me and guided me on how to build those things. Because, like, yeah, I'm a 14-year-old guy. I'm not very good with tech. And my father just sometimes like guided me, okay, like, here I need to buy this thing, and here I need to buy that and that. So I really do appreciate, my parents for help and everything that they did for me, because I think this is all because of them. So
That's so awesome, man. Shout out to the fam.
yeah, fam is the best. So yeah, I think we should literally, everything that people achieve is just only because of their parents and nothing else, in my opinion.
That's awesome, man. That's a great starter story. So then you told me you went to college in Russia. So I guess you're like 18 at this point, 18 or 19. But you dropped out of college and you became a Thiel Fellow. So for the listeners, if you don't know what a Thiel Fellow is, basically Peter Thiel, who is a really famous VC. He was one of the founders of PayPal, Palantir, many other really interesting companies over the years. Very, very famous in Silicon Valley. He pays people to drop out. He pays smart people who are entrepreneurial to drop out of college and build their tech company. So you became a Thiel Fellow. You're in Russia. How did you get connected with Peter Thiel?
So firstly, I became a Thiel Fellow when I was already in the US. So I got it a little bit later, and I dropped out of the university like sooner than I got Thiel Fellowship. So I didn't really need Thiel Fellowship to drop out, basically. I was just like not interested to waste my life sitting in the auditorium and like listening to some old guys like 60 years old, or just talking about how to build using assembler or like anything like that. So but Thiel Fellowship I got like just actually like actually it is for this year after I came to the US. How did it happen? I honestly just when I arrived to the US, I was like sitting in in one of the hacker houses, and I saw some person was like working on the computer. So I asked him, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm filling this application for Thiel Fellowship. And I was like, what is that? And it was, again, I don't know, maybe like less than a year ago. And he's like, oh, this is this great thing where you apply, they give you like money, you can drop out, and so on and so forth. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And I just quickly checked the site, I applied, and I basically got in. So it was like super random, honestly. I didn't expect it. I wasn't sure. I was thinking they would honestly decline me because like I'm some random kid, like somewhere from at the middle of nowhere. But I was lucky and I got in. So this is how it happened.
Yeah, I didn't even know that he honors like retroactive dropouts. Like you already dropped out, but and you're already building your thing. And but that's cool that they
Yeah.
let you in for that.
Yeah.
So did you meet Peter Thiel, or was it just through his people, or?
Yeah, it was mostly with his team, basically. So his team is a great team, who participates in the process and like, talks with the folks and so on. So it's mostly with the team itself. All the process was. Peter is a very busy guy, like working on multiple things. I'm not sure he has time to to like filter like hundreds and thousands of people who apply every year. So
I'm sure he did in the early days when the Thiel
yeah.
Fellowship started. I'm sure that was just him like just meeting people in Silicon Valley and saying like, oh, hey, you shouldn't be going to Stanford. You should be building your thing and just like leave right now. Here's 200 grand.
Yeah. He was very hands-on, like especially in the first few batches. But right now, it just like grew like so big that and Peter also has like a lot of more going on, right? Because like now he just he just built much more. He participates in many more activities and like teaching in Stanford and many more. So yeah.
Some of the stuff he does, man, he's like a bold guy. Like I always think like, and now anytime I think about Peter Thiel, I think about when Gawker outed him for being gay. And then he like basically put like, he's like, all right, you're gonna do that. He's like, all right, I'm gonna hire 30 lawyers and their full-time job is gonna be to like sue you and just like shut down your entire platform. So like literally just like put together a staff of lawyers and just like attacked the hell out of Gawker for like firing the first shot at him. Like some of that stuff, like I don't know if that's a good or I don't know if that's a net good or a net bad for society. I don't think Gawker is probably a net good for society to begin with, but just like the fact that like that's how he operates, like he's just like all guns blazing, ready to go at any second, is just like I'm sure that has something to do with why he's super successful too.
Honestly, I don't know, and honestly, I didn't even know about the story. So I cannot give like a lot of context on this. I think it's to the fact that I'm just, like very focused on like grinding and doing the same thing, and I'm very bad with like politics and so on. When people tell me about like some politics activities of like one another person, I was like, oh, really? Wow. So I'm like super bad at what is happening. But what I really love about people is like what they built and what they achieved. And I know that Peter built PayPal. I know how he built it. I know it was very hard. I know he like if it's not him, Facebook might not be where it is right now. Sorry, Meta these days. And he also like helped a lot of other people in Thiel Fellowship and Founders Fund. So for that, I'm very appreciative. What else happened outside of that? I'm honestly really not really aware. So yeah, just like all the politics stuff, I think there are much more qualified people who can talk about that.
Yeah, cool. So all right, so you let's catch back up in the story here. So you moved to the US after dropping out of college in Russia, and you got the Thiel Fellowship. Was that before or after you joined 500 Startups?
It was after. So I was still in Russia, and then I joined 500 Startups. And in 500, I basically started my second company, which is a talent marketplace. We love no code, right? And I've been working on that for 3 years. I've been building the team from Russia, and then I left Russia even before the war, and I was just started to travel. I traveled to like at least 30 different countries. Why? Simply because I was trying to hustle my way into the United States, and my visa got declined a couple of times. And I was just staying in different countries for usually not more than a month, so that I don't get deported back to Russia. So I go to the country, I stay there for a month, and then I move to another one. And eventually, I got my visa, and I moved here right away. Here, I continue the company. I moved my team members from Europe, basically, to the US as well. Get a Thiel Fellowship, and then starting the company, and now basically working on something else. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and for the listeners, if you don't know 500 Startups, it's like a accelerator program similar to Y Combinator, basically where, people like Nik take their companies and just go through like a rigorous boot camp to go from, zero to, having product market fit or having some sort of, early signs of traction with the business. And, then they kind of set the startups free and go out into the wild and do their thing. So that's really awesome, man. That's just amazing. And like, what blows my mind, you're 24 years old, like you were saying before, like all this stuff you've accomplished. We haven't even gotten to the end of your story yet. And like all this stuff you've accomplished is just like super amazing.
I'm honestly, firstly, thank you a lot for your kind words. Second, I don't really think that like age is, something great here, because there are a lot of other younger people, 20 years old and so on, even in Thiel Fellowship, who achieved much more success. So I think we should have a shout out for them, and not to some like old guys like me, honestly. But thank you a lot for the kind words, and there are a lot of other great people who obviously also supported me during the journey, such as again my family, to whom I call every week at least 2 times, even though I actually didn't see them in 2 years. Just because like I cannot get back to Russia, and I don't really want to. Like my investors and my employees and my friends and everyone else. So thank you a lot to them for all that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So all right, well, let's keep going. So you did 500 Startups, and then you had, before that, you founded We Love No Code, which is a marketplace. You've since sold the company to TopTool, but it's a marketplace for I guess engineers, or what's kind of, I guess, no code engineers.
Yeah. There is a lot of different tools that allow you to build a site without writing code, like Webflow, Bubble, Airtable, and so on. A lot of times those no-code tools need customizations, usually with code and so on. Not only that, but they also need like advice, mentorship, and support, because when you're exploring some tool, there is a huge ramp that you need to crawl in order to actually start building successfully with that tool. So we were building a marketplace for you to match with people who are already experienced in those tools, so that they could either help you to build for you or help you by mentoring you, and in like more than 400 different of those tools. And I honestly really like this idea. I really like the market. I really like the idea of building something by yourself without writing code. But unfortunately, I worked on this for like 3 years, and my investors were like, Nik, okay, you're doing this thing, and we kind of like hit the ceiling basically. It stopped growing really aggressively. So and like I just kept talking to like a lot of other people, and they were all basically the same. Like, Nik, you're a smart guy, and you're building a cool thing, and now your company is just basically growing like it's just a couple percentages month over month. And I was like, yeah, you're actually right, and this is how we made the decision to sell. Then we just like researched other talent marketplaces. We saw that TopTel is the closest to us, and we also actually copied like a lot of SEO techniques from TopTel as well. So which is why our traffic was like pretty great, which is why TopTel was interested in us, and this is how the acquisition actually happened. So
cool. So how much money did you raise at We Love No Code?
Totally, we raised like around $3 million, and we raised them in small chunks, like within basically 2 years time frame. It was all kind of the same round, honestly, so we just called like all one seed. But yeah, overall it was like 3 million. So yeah.
Cool. Were the investors happy with the outcome? It sounds like probably it was a pretty good one.
We compensated we're compensated investors partially. It's like not a multi-billion-dollar exit for investor for sure. It's still an exit for them. So which I'm excited by. So now, since we sold the company, I will start the next one, and I'm very excited by the next one because I will grant my previous investors also some equity in this new one if they will decide to support. To kind of like make sure that they like super happy basically. So, and we'll go from there.
Nice. Did you have any well-known investors on We Love No Code?
Yeah, I think our most well-known is the Chainsmokers band. They have like 30
Oh, you serious?
Yeah. They have like 30 million followers on YouTube, right? They're very nice guys actually. Like they just recently stepped into the into this VC area, but they're super supportive, and they know a bunch of very smart and interesting people, and they try their best. So they're very great guys. Yeah.
That's gotta be the most ridiculous answer I've ever gotten for who are your investors? Like the Chainsmoker band.
Well, I mean, like Uber got like Jay-Z, right? And
yeah, but Jay-Z makes more sense, I think, than the Chainsmokers. Like I would have thought the Chainsmokers are in like the tech VC arena.
Oh yeah, well, but like now they actually have a lot of cool companies under their belt. So like if I would be like, people made laugh of them. When they just stepped in, like, oh, these guys like trying to, play VC game or something, and now they have a lot of actually cool companies, and people don't laugh at them anymore. So, yeah, I think they're very smart and great guys overall.
Wow, yeah, I had no idea they were doing that. That's really cool. I'll do some research on that after the pod. I want to take a quick break from the episode and say, if you're enjoying this content, the best way you can say thank you is to subscribe. So if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you're on one of the podcast platforms, hit the subscribe button there as well. And also share it out to your friends and colleagues. If you find this content useful and you think other people will enjoy it as well, please send it out. And back to the episode. All right, so you grew this thing to like 50 employees. I'm sure obviously your marketplace and GMV was much higher than that. Like you're probably like the amount of people you were like going through the marketplace was probably much higher than that. You said like 4 million ARR at the exit point, and I think you said about a $52 million valuation. So you sold this deal to TopTool. Did you stay on with TopTool?
No. My top one message to them was like, guys, I'm not interested to stay. I want to do other things. I'm already I'm old and I need to grind.
Dude, you keep saying you're old, man. You're 24.
Well, like compared to the Silicon Valley standards. And
I know you're like a senior citizen in Silicon Valley, man.
Yeah. So yeah, but like I would honestly like to be very helpful to the people who are watching this podcast, because I spent quite a bunch of time analyzing like my 3 years of what I've been working on, and I kind of prepared for this podcast actually specifically a few things that I think are most important learnings that I got after all this time. And I would love people to look at my experience of raising 3 million, selling the companies, getting to a lot of employees, and just get those advices that I give to them, and just take them with like a grain of salt basically, but still try to implement them into their workflow in life. So number one is basically never scale before you have a very, very good product. What happened to us is that we got a lot of traction very soon because we launched we launched a product hunt. We got a bunch of customers right away within like our first couple of days who paid like more than $10,000 per month. And we were like, okay, if we got so much money, our product probably is amazing, so let's just scale it right away. What we ended up doing is we hire people who did performance marketing on Google, Facebook ads, and so on. And we start to scale prematurely, not sure if our product is great. We were thinking that we'll just spend a lot of money on the marketing, and then it will and then we'll get customers, and then we'll recur them with our product basically. But what happened is we bought marketing, people came, and then they left from the product, and we were just left with nothing. So this is number one. Never scale prematurely before the product. And by the way, feel free to interrupt me, maybe ask clarifying questions, because I'll just go. I have eight most important things prioritized one by one that I wanted to share.
Keep going, man.
Okay,
that first one was a good one.
Okay, so number two is like never hire bad people. What happened to me is that I hired like more than, I think, like 100 people basically. And why I hired them? We had to hire them because we are a service-based marketplace, and when you're a service-based marketplace, you have to hire people because they need to communicate with your customers. And I, being 20 years old, I was never sure, how to hire correctly. I made a lot of mistakes. Sorry, a lot of mistakes. And I think this is like one of the most important reasons why we didn't become $1 billion company. And my main advice here is just like try to postpone your hiring to as late as possible. And if you cannot, try to do everything by yourself. And if you cannot, make sure that you hire the best of the best people that you are personally excited by and people you would want to work for in alternative universe, as Mark Zuckerberg says. If you're not excited to be with the person in the same room, just please stop the hiring process and just do this thing by yourself and try not to hire for as long as possible. Sam Altman actually, in fact, in his YC interviews and early interviews, gives this as number one advice. Try to postpone hiring to as long as possible, and when you have to hire, try to hire as best people as possible. So this would be my number two advice, as I want people to remember. Number three is never start the company alone. And actually, this is a very interesting advice because I like to start companies alone. I don't I don't want to be slowed down by other people, and I don't want to wait for some special co-founder, some magical co-founder that will just appear and we'll start a company together with. But there is a stats from YC, for example, who are a little bit more biased because they only invested two and more people teams. But still, in their early days, they invested into a lot of teams, and out of 100 startups that achieved multi-billion-dollar valuations, more than 97 of them had multiple co-founders, basically, as far as I remember. I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's plus minus that amount. So there is a very small chance to succeed if you are a solo founder, basically. If you want to build a small company, like multi-million-dollar one, you need to definitely do it alone. If you want to build something that will be potentially worth $10 billion, the only way to do that is to do it with other co-founders. Why? Because those people will give you feedbacks. Those people will tell you when you're acting stupid, that no one else will do for you, sadly, even your investors, unfortunately, sometimes. So that's why right now, this is actually one of my main reasons why I'm doing, a podcast and trying to talk to as many people as possible after setting, is because I want to meet as many people as possible. I want to, talk to as many people as possible to potentially start a new company together with. Next reason is
real quick on number three.
Mm-hmm.
So 100% agree with you. Build companies with friends. Don't build, don't build alone. But most importantly, the right people. Partner with the right people. And you kind of said that in the hiring, hire the right people.
Yeah.
But it's even more important. You can, if someone's not the right, if you hire the wrong person, I've always had a hire fast, fire fast kind of mentality. If someone's not working out, don't hold on to them, but don't overanalyze the hire. But with co-founders, you can't undo that. So once you start a company, you can't there is ways to unwind that, but it's super messy and super disruptive to the business. So it's really not easy to unwind it if you have the wrong business partner. And so absolutely critical to have a business partner, I think, but it's also even more critical to have the right business partner. Yeah,
agree. And there are some, I actually know a case where my friend, he fired his co-founder with 40% stocks ownership, and it was crazy. So it's still possible, right? But it is very, very hard. So
and your cap tables all jacked up, and
Yeah. So I would really, really advise people to select who you are working with. It is super important. And I'm not sure if I'm the best person here to advise, honestly, because it's been like a month and I still didn't find my co-founder yet. But I'm kind of like pretty picky. I have like a list of like 100 people that I'm going through because I want to make sure that I will select the best possible person that I'll work with. So yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. So DM me in like 5 years. Let's see what happens there. If will be right or wrong, and let's look from there. So yeah, I will go to the next piece of advice that I have for people prepared here, and that one is being too attached to a specific idea. When we started the talent marketplace, we kind of like set this mission to speed up the creation of digital products. And I was always telling people that the way we'll do that is by connecting people, connecting companies with talent, right? So we all should be about talent. But then AI came, and with AI, a lot of tasks got automated, right? And like a lot of no-code tools actually also automated a lot of their tasks. So humans became much less needed than AI itself. And my investors actually, some of my investors advised me like, Nik, you should like start and you should like build like a no-code tool maybe or something. But since I'm not an engineer by myself, I was very scared by the idea that I have to build my own no-code tool because it's very hard. And I kept doing with, I kept building the marketplace, and that was the huge mistake. So piece of advice: never be attached to a specific idea. If there is something going on in the market and you see there is a huge shift like AI, be prepared or you will die. So change or you will die. Adapt or you will die. That will be like my first piece of advice here. And number fifth, I think, would be there is kind of like I was thinking which one exactly, because there are two of them that I would put on the fifth place, sorry, but probably it's spending too much money. So we raised like $3 million, right? And I spent $1.6 million on salaries to people. So we hired a lot of people and we spent a lot of money. Because of that, we had to spend a lot of money. This is a huge mistake as well. So try not to hire people in the first place, and also try not to like spend so much money on them. Obviously, people need to eat and so on, but in the early days, you don't need people who need like more than $5,000, per month to survive, because those people will need to survive on noodles, on air bed, basically in somewhere in your office. They will be grinding with you probably if you want to build a really successful and fast growing startup. Obviously, later in the stage, you will need to hire people who are more mature, whose salaries will be around $20,000 and so on. But my mistake was that I hired those people right away, and it was a huge mistake because they were mostly interested in money, not in the building itself. So the next thing we spent the money on was marketing itself. I think we spent around $800,000 on marketing total, like ads and so on. And just don't do that until you have a product market fit. Don't spend money on performance or anything like that. So curious what you think here, but I think you'll probably agree with me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think I think everything you're saying, product market fit is the first problem to solve. Like, don't solve,
Yes.
If you're a startup, don't solve any problem until you've solved product market fit. And like, there's all different kinds of businesses. Like if you're building like an HVAC company and you want to like scale it up to a national $1 billion HVAC company that services HVAC units, like you don't need to verify product market fit. Like, obviously there's HVAC installations in every house and everyone has one and they break. So, like it's obvious there's product market fit there. You just need to be like competitive in the landscape, and it's like price and service and quality and all, sales capabilities. So there's no product market fit challenge there. But like if you're building tech, especially platforms or SaaS, especially if it's like, if you're like number 2 in the market or number 3 in the market and there's already been a category created, then you have an idea of what product market fit looks like, but you still have to like prove that your product, like whatever you build, you have to prove that it has fit in the existing marketplace. Yes. But if you're like, what all the advice you're saying, I think applies mostly to people who are creating new categories, like new platforms, new categories. They're defining a new market. And I 100% agree. Do not do anything. If you're creating a new category, do not do anything until you have 100% confirmed product market fit.
Yes,
That's the
yes,
only
yes,
problem to
yes.
solve. Like for step one, like the only thing to care about is product market fit.
Yes, yes, agreed. Yeah, I'm 100% like aligned here with you, and I hope that people will apply those feedbacks to their daily routine and their life and their journey, startup journey. Um, and the next one will be that I have here on the list is prioritizing revenue over product. So a lot of times we were like, actually, no. I just give it a thought, another thought, and I'll probably skip this for now because I kind of changed my mind a little bit afterwards. And I'm also curious to hear your thoughts. But we had like a lot of times when we were like too focused on the product, for example, and we just really forgot about the revenue. So we were just like building features like one by one, and we didn't really care about the revenue and making money. And another few months, we were focused only on revenue. So we didn't give a shit about the product at all. So we're just, like, how do we get more money this week, this month, and so on. And I'm honestly not sure what is the right approach here. So how do you like kind of, balance those two things? I honestly didn't really learn it because when I want to be focused on the product, I want to be focused on like building long-term features. When I want to be focused on revenue, I'm building like very short term. I'm just like hiring people, I'm pushing everyone like, hey, let's close this customer and so on. Maybe you have some advices here, but I still didn't learn anything with this, how to overcome this
Yeah, I
part.
mean, ideally, like we talked about multiple co-founders earlier. So, like, ideally, you have like a business-oriented co-founder who's often the
Yeah,
CEO, and then you
yeah,
have a technical-oriented founder who's often the CTO. I mean, the titles can
yeah,
be whatever, but often you have a technical co-founder and a business-oriented co-founder. And there can be other, if you have a three co-founder, maybe one's like more industries, maybe they have some experience and connections in the industry you're going into, or there could be like other combinations. But if you're a two co-founder team building software, you should have a technical person and a business person. And I think in like pre-product market fit, the technical person should only be focused on building products, and the business co-founder should only be focused on like what the product should be, like the vision for the product, and then out there talking, whether they're raising money, whether they're trying to raise money, whether they're like talking to customers, potential customers, interviewing potential customers, lining up a sales pipeline, whatever it is. But they're kind of like, it's the business person's probably more of a chief product officer at that stage, like a product manager, not even a chief product officer because it's a two-person company, but
yeah,
the business person's more of a product manager / like go-to-market person at that stage, and the technical person's just like a developer, like writing code. Once you have the products and you have product market fit, or like you have a pretty sure bet that you have product market fit, then I think the CTO or the technical co-founder then switches into focusing on product instead of
mm,
coding. The technical person
mm-hmm,
should focus on product as a whole,
mm-hmm,
including product management and coding. And then the
mm-hmm.
business person should focus only on sales, marketing and sales, like go to market and like fill the pipeline, get demos booked, get sales in the pipeline,
Yeah.
close the deals, get revenue, and then, get feedback from the customers. But it's kind of like a dance where like the two founders are like, their roles evolve. As a company reaches new stages, the roles of the
Yes.
founders evolve at each stage.
Yeah, I agree. So with multiple people, it becomes like much easier, right? But like, what do you do when you are one person? So that's basically crazy. That's like almost impossible. And
Maybe that's
great
why.
shout outs.
Maybe that's why YC said that
Yeah,
no companies with one person get to $1 billion.
yeah. Great shout out to like people who actually manage to build huge successful companies by themselves, like solo. Basically, I think it's very hard, and and yeah, shout out to them. So yeah, quickly, since we don't really have a lot of time to talk here, just a bunch of more advices actually too, which is like raising too much money and launching too early. A little bit on the raising too much money is you do not really need money at all. So investors will just give you money when you don't need them. People don't think this is true, but it's actually true. This is like, I think more than 90% of the money are raised when they are not really needed. And investors are just like reaching out to you and like just offering them and just trying to, to jump on your train of growth and so on. And I was like, 2 years ago, I was like sitting in my apartment and thinking, okay, what will be the next step of this month? What should I do during the next month? And I was like, okay, I need to raise money. Why did I came to that conclusion? I honestly wasn't sure, because I was thinking that everyone was raising money, and maybe if everyone is doing that, maybe we should do that as well. So I just started to raise, and I eventually raised it, but I kind of wouldn't do it again if I wouldn't have like a very, very, very important reason to do so. So for example, maybe like I will need to buy some supercomputer, right? That's why I need to raise money, because you kind of cannot buy a supercomputer with with $5,000 that you have on your bank account. Or maybe another reason is you need to buy a patent for your idea to work and so on. So that's a good reason. But if you don't really have anything like that, and if you can build something like next week and launch it and get traction, you would rather do that way rather than raising money instead. So a lot of people would disagree with me here, and I would also disagree with myself if I would be watching this podcast from the side, because there are many different opinions. But this is just kind of like the experience that I got after raising a bunch of money myself and talking to a lot of other successful people who built multi-billion-dollar companies. So basically, take it or leave it. And the last one, I think, and I will wrapping up my advices. I actually have 8 more, but I think this one I'll just like stop because they are less relevant, which is launching too early. So a lot of times it is people are kind of like, okay, we cannot launch yet because we do not have a great product. So we need to build an amazing product first. And then, once we launch it, it will be a lot of hype and people will come and we'll start selling and so on, which is a huge mistake. And Paul Graham, for example, he says, just like launch as fast as possible. And YC also says, like, launch next week and go from there, get feedback, etc. But also, and I did it all the time, honestly, like whenever we had some feature, we just like literally launched it. But there is also another side of this coin, which is do not launch too early and do not launch shit. I would like, put it that way. And I'm sorry for my language, but I think it's just super important to differentiate like, good from the bad. And bad, what is bad is basically when you launch something and when you didn't even test it and people are just coming there and they're like, oh, wow, it doesn't work. Okay, I will leave. And then you launch something again and they come there again and they're like, oh, it doesn't work again. So I guess these guys are just launching bad products. I'll just stop checking them out. And I think it happened to us as well, because we were like, okay, let's just launch fast. Like, let's launch with bugs and then, we'll fix them in the future. And it just ended up like every release it ended up with bugs and people were just disappointed with the quality. And I honestly was also disappointed with the quality because I was testing our own products and they were just contained with bugs. And I think people just got this picture that, okay, this brand is just like, like broken and, we should just stop checking their products, basically. Curious to hear your thoughts here, but this is kind of the experience I got. More bad products you launch, worse your reputation is, the less your conversions are. I would put it this way.
Yeah, so I have a theory on this. There's all these like schools of thought that say, launch early, launch often, speed to market, which all that stuff is true. Like you have to be fast. You can't be slow. If you're slow, then you're never going to go anywhere. So you still have to be action oriented. But I think a lot of these like, these theories of like you should be embarrassed of your first MVP. I think a lot of those came out in like the mid 2000s, like 2010, 2005, like, Eric Ries with the Lean Startup had a lot of that stuff. Paul Graham said a lot of that stuff in the early days of YC. That was like 2010, 2005, like early days of YC. And back then the internet was so different. Like, the top, if you go to waybackmachine, or archive.org, whatever it is, and you look at Amazon.com in 2005, it was a really crappy website, man. Like you go to ebay.com in 2005, like, dude, it was a really bad website. Like it really looked like crap compared to like what the internet looks like today. Yes. And so like consumer, like user expectations were low in those years compared to what they are now. Like nowadays we've got like decoupled, front end application architecture. We've got microservices architecture. Like, products are just really sophisticated these days. And users are comparing your product to, some of the best products out there. Like they're comparing it to, products like Instagram or like Gmail or, if you're in business space, they're comparing it to HubSpot or like QuickBooks or like, some of these really mature products that have a lot of features. They're really refined. They're bug free for the most part. And, so that's what users are comparing everything to. Like they're like, everyone's expecting you to have Facebook level engineering quality. And so I think that like concept of launching your MVP, that you should be embarrassed with it. I think that's I think that concept is aged out. I think it's still important to be fast, but you need to be fast and good. You can't just be fast.
Yeah. I think you're pretty much right. I'm not very sure like where we are in that stage in terms of like, can we still launch bad products or we should just launch everything perfect right away?
Not perfect. Perfect is the death of good. Like perfect is the death of good. Like good is good enough, but you can't be bad.
Yeah. And like also very important to note where that border is, like, right, where it's like good, like enough, and bad completely. So it's very important to differentiate. But overall, I would agree probably with you. Yeah, because like much earlier, it was much harder to launch, and you had to put much more effort. And if something wouldn't work, it's kind of okay because we all knew how hard it was. Now it's much easier, so people expect the quality bar to be a little bit, above. So probably you're right, and I would 100% agree here. But wrapping it up, those are eight, I think eight, right? 8 of my top advices. I have 8 more, but those are less prioritized. I think people will need to remember them. And again, just like to summarize, don't scale before a good product. Don't hire just for as long as you can, and when you hire the best people possible. Do not start with as a single founder. Don't be attached to a specific idea. Don't spend too much time. Don't spend too much money. Do not prioritize revenue over product, and do not prioritize product over revenue. Try to mix them together. And ideally, if you have multiple co-founders, so they could work on multiple things. Do not raise too much money when you don't need it. Do not raise money just for fun, basically, and because of other people are raising. And do not launch like crap, basically. So that will be top 8 prioritized. So the first one I said is the top one, and the last one is like the less important, in my opinion, at least to my majority. So hope it was useful for other people as well.
Yeah, man. So as we're wrapping up here, speaking of launching, you just launched something new. Do you want to get into that here and tell people what you just built and launched?
Yeah, I'm working on 2 ideas simultaneously, and hopefully we'll be able to attach a couple links under the podcast video of like a 1-minute demo so that people could take a look. But in short, one of them is a smart glass with a personal AI assistant that just lives inside of your smart glasses and sees everything that you see. And another idea is another recruitment startup, which is like LinkedIn, but not employee-driven, but employer-driven, where people, founders, recruiters share referrals to each other and can like very easily and in a faster way hire people. So for example, if it takes 80 hours on average to hire a person from outbound, it takes 4 hours on average to hire a person from your friend, because the person is already trustable, and the only thing you need to do is just like to do a very small trial with them and just go from there. And this is the exact idea that I'm doing, but on scale. So like, how do you hire from your friends, but like not just like in DMs, in like iMessages, like asking for referrals and so on, but like on scale? How do you do it like in a huge way? So those 2 ideas. And looking for potential co-founders was there and there. So if you are a very great go-to-market person interested in recruitment, please hit me up. If you are thinking that we are on the shifting kind of like border into VR, AR stuff, and if you know how to do hardware or AI, please also hit me up because that will be very relevant for the AR, VR markets as themselves. And I'm also working on a game for fun. So this is like kind of like GTA 5 in the Metaverse. Very curious to where it will go. But for that, I'm just mostly, talking to investors and so, because that game requires a lot of capital. So that's kind of it. Hopefully we'll attach a bunch of links in YouTube.
Yeah, man. Email me the links you want in the show notes, because we'll put all those in. And
Awesome.
Nick, this was a hell of an episode, man. You got a lot of stuff.
Awesome.
You got a lot of really awesome stuff. How can people connect with you if they want to reach out and talk to you about like a co-founder or?
Yeah, I will attach my site, and on the site you'll see my email basically, and a lot of other social networks. The best way to do is email, because I never miss email. Usually, at least I'm trying my best. So yeah, I'll put my site, and there you'll find my email as well.
There we go. That's the show.